Hi guys, this is Sai Kumar Kortiwada. In this video, we will learn how to update a node of which we have created. And before that, we already did our delete operation on this particular nodes. I have completed that in my previous video. If you want to watch, please watch, come here and you will understand whole in a clear manner. So let me show you the UI first. Here we have a list. So here is a list of data, and once you click on the add nodes, you can add the nodes. Clicking on this check all nodes, you will come back and you can see all the nodes. And once the nodes is deleted, you can delete it whenever you want. And now in this video we will cover, once the user clicks on edit, it has to navigate to the same nodes details but with the pre-filled data, and based on that you will be coming back. And once the user updates the details and once he comes back to the list, he will be seeing the updated data over here. Let me go into Visual Studio Code and let me go into our nodes. So nodes.component.html, here where we have that add new button. So this is my add nodes. So where we can add the nodes. But if you see here, we have nodes slash details because we are just adding a new one. But whenever we are updating the existing one, we need some unique identifier to identify which nodes we are updating. For that sake, what I'll do is I'll go into this edit part, go into the edit part, and here I'm creating one click event. So let me add a click, and what I want to do is edit node, and which node we are editing. I'm editing the current row whatever we are clicking, so I'm passing this edit node. Let me go into our nodes.ts, and now let me add that. So let me go in the last or but one and add a public method which will access this edit node and will pass the node for us, that will have a interface of inode which will not return anything. So that's why void. Now what it has to do is it has to navigate this particular user with a unique identifier. If you see here, the unique identifier for this nodes is ID. So we have to pass that ID to the details. But before that, we have to check whether that our routing is having an accessibility to access that ID. So let me go into our nodes or go for the first, that is nothing but app routing. Inside the app routing, when you give nodes, it will go into the node modules and nodes module routing, and here whenever you give details, it will go into mat details component, and inside these details we have all the details, and when you go to the routing we have empty path. That means we have access only till the empty route, that means nodes slash details. But now what I want to do is I want to pass nodes slash details slash some ID. So how to pass that? I'll create a new path where the path will contain a dynamic ID and the component can be the same nodes detail component, and save this. Now we gave the access for our ID URL. So what I'll do is just I'll go here, I'll navigate this dot router dot navigate, and the navigation is first it has to navigate to the nodes. Already we are in the nodes, and it has to navigate to details, and then it has to navigate to node dot ID, and this can be undefined as well. So I'll make it explicitly as a string value and just save this. Now when the user clicks on edit, it has to pick that particular ID and go to the next page. Till here just we are navigating, we are not pre-filling the values. Let me go here, click on edit. You can see the ID value is 2. If you go back, the ID value is 2. So we are taking this ID and just we are passing to the URL and we are navigating to our nodes details. Now this is where we can identify whether we are in edit mode or in add mode. For example, if you are going back and clicking on add nodes, you don't have an ID. If you have an ID, that is an edit mode. If you don't have an ID, then it is create mode. So let me go here, and now based on this ID we will try to manage all our controls. So let me clear this. That means we don't want any nodes now. We will target only on the node details. Let me go into our node details component.ts. Here we have to access that particular ID first. So the accessing of ID we can do by using activated route. That is one scenario, and we are not using this. Let me remove this. Now by using our services we can access it, and there is an other approach from Angular 16. That is nothing but you can configure that in your app.module.ts inside your routing. So you have something like, so that will be present in your routing module. Yes, bind to component inputs. That means you can access this particular value by using @input decorator and passing that particular parameter. You can access this. This is also one of the way. So let me go here. What I can do is I can just add @input, and this input I'll make it as an ID which is of string type and which will not have any default value. So let me go inside the constructor and just write a console.log of this.id. So automatically, as I gave this property in our routing, bind to component inputs, the route dynamic values, if you are mapping that particular value with your input decorator, it automatically fetches the value from the URL. Let me go here and just go into the nodes. Let me inspect this and let me go into the console. Now let me click on edit. If you see here, you have 2 but you didn't receive that value. Let's see why we didn't receive. This is an ID. Let me give as empty and let me access this inside my on init. Let me save this. Yes. So inside the constructor means it is not at all loaded. So it is still in the loading process. But once you see ng on init, you got that ID. Let me go here. Let me go back to the nodes and click on edit. You can see that 2. Value 2. And also there is one more thing, we gave the not condition, right? So that could be also a problem. Let me console this inside the constructor and save this. You can see it got empty. That means it is getting the default value. This indicates that whatever the IDs you are getting, that will be accessible after input. That means not in the constructor. If you are inside the constructor, that indicates your component is not completely loaded. So now we have this access to ID. Now what we have to do is, init form is common. We have to initialize the data, but after initialization, once the form is initialized, we have to get all the details. That details can be accessed from our API. For that sake, what I'll do is I'll create if condition, if, or instead of doing here, what I can do, I can add here itself. After initializing my form, this dot get user or get note details of current user, because I want to get only the current users values. So what I'll do, just I'll copy this and I'll write a condition. First, what is my condition? If I have this dot ID, then only get the user details. Otherwise node details is not required, because if you don't have an ID, it is a new one. So let me copy this and put it over here with a private and which is of void. Now I want to get the details. For getting the details, we have something called as note service dot get all nodes. You can get all the nodes dot subscribe, and you can get a response which is of inote array, and we will be getting an array of data. So let me check the user ID. Const user ID is equal to, let me get the local storage value, local storage dot get item of local storage keys dot ID. So if this ID contains, then you will be getting the ID, otherwise you have to get empty value. Now if my user ID exists or does not exist, I have to show an error. This dot show snack bar, and the snack bar should show that user is invalid, please log in. This is my message. And after some time, set timeout, and I am moving this fellow. After 2 seconds of time, I'll move this guy to this dot router. There is no routing over here. Let me inject that router, comma private router and the router. So let's get that, this dot router dot navigate to login and semicolon. So if user ID does not exist, he has to navigate back to the login. For example, now we have the ID, notes ID. So now we have to check whether this ID and user ID contains a note or not. For that sake, what I can do is filtered note is equal to, I want to filter it out, or you can also find by using the index. It's up to you how you want to write. Now I want to use a filter. This dot, that is response dot filter, will give you an object, and each object is an inode. So this inode contains obj.id, and the ID should be equivalent to our global ID, that is this dot ID, and also our obj dot, that is nothing but obj dot created by should be equivalent to our id, the id which is user id. So let me get the user id. For example, if the filtered note exists, or if the filtered dot length, because it will return an array. If this filtered node dot length is less than or equal to 0, that means you don't have any node with this particular id. In that case, what I'll do is I'll just show this dot show snack bar, and the snack bar is no nodes found with the no nodes found. And then after 2 minutes of time, I'll just navigate him not out of the application but out of this edit nodes. So this dot router dot navigate, and I want to navigate this fellow only till nodes. He will be pushed back to the nodes, and I'll be creating a seconds of 2000 milliseconds. That means after 2 seconds he has to go back. Now why this scenario came in? Because filtered node may or may not exist. I can go manually and give 123 with that particular ID. That doesn't matter, right? So we can have any ID which can be passed to that URL, because we can access this node details directly with the URL. So that's why I'm doing like this filtered node, and that filtered node and that particular node ID and the user ID should match with our nodes. Then only you have to get that nodes. In this case, if these two scenarios are done, then nothing will be present. That means it is an error block. So we have handled all the error details. Now we are going to the actual result. So the filtered node should always be equal to 1, because we should have only one ID with, we should have only one node with this particular user ID and with this particular node ID. So that's why what I'm doing is I'm getting this filtered node. That means this dot, I'm having a form. That form is nodes form dot patch value. Already I have explained you what is patch and what is the patch value and what is the set value. So now I'm passing this filtered node of 0, because I should have only one node. Now this patch value, what it will do is it will render your form with your values, whatever you have saved in our DB. And also this filtered node, I may be using this in the future also. So let me save that in our variable. Let me save it as current node details, and this is equal to nothing, and it should be of type I node. Everything I'm making it as strictly typed. Let me save this, and this is my current node details. Let me save all the filtered details into this is equal to filtered node of 0, and this is this variable, this dot. And whenever this get user details calls, this should become null. This dot current details is equal to null, because I don't want to show any of the data. In this case, it can be null, or I can just pass an object which is as I node, because we are making it as strictly typed. So now first time it will be empty, and once the API is success and you get the data, you got that particular current node details. Now this is fine. Now we got current node details and it has to render in the UI. Let's check that. Let me go here, and you can see everything was settled over here. Testing 133 and testing for second time. So you have the data with the same thing. Let me reload this. Let's check. We have testing 133 and testing for second time. So the same thing was visible over here. Now everything is fine, but our labels and our text should be changed. So this is add nodes, it should be update nodes. Let me go to the code and add that conditions. Already we know that if the ID exists, then it is edit mode. So let me go into our HTML part, and simple to write this with an interpolation condition. That is, if ID exists, then show it as edit or update nodes, and the same condition we will be writing for heading. Copy this, put it in your heading as well. So save this. Now we have added and updated. Let me go here. You can see update nodes and the node title and the node description. So let's show them the time also. For example, what I'll do is inside the footer, this is my footer. What I'll do before this footer and inside the content, what I'll do is I'll add one more div, and this div will be shown only when my ng if, that is the condition, and the condition is if ID exists. If ID exists, I want to show a paragraph here, or just let me add some h5 as created time, and let me put the same thing h5 as updated time. And what I want to show here is I want to show the time, whatever the created time and whatever the updated time. Let me make it h6 because I don't want to show more bold. Go with h6 and h6. Here you will be getting the details, right? So how we will be getting the details? I can get this created time and updated time by using this current notes details. So current node details, if it contains the value, that is nothing but your created at, copy and put it over here. Same thing, let me copy this and put it over here with updated it. And if this value exists, that means if you have an ID and if you have this current details and the current details, then go and show this. If you have these details, then let me make it as short, short and short. Save this and you can see the timing, but unexpected token short, it is date format, right? So let me go with the date format with short, and here also date format with short. Save this and go here. You can see the timings as well. So it is showing 7:03 p.m. 7:03 p.m. But once we update the nodes, the updated time should change. That logic we didn't wrote, we'll write now. Once the user clicks on the same thing like submit, we are calling ng submit, and this will call add nodes. So what I'll do is, let me copy this and go here, put it over here. So add nodes, what it is doing is it is getting all the user nodes and just it is trying to update the nodes. That is absolutely fine. Now here the thing is, we are checking whether node title already exists or not, and here we are saving the nodes. Now instead of saving this particular nodes directly, what I'll do is I'll write one condition. If my ID exists, I should not go for save nodes, else I should go for save nodes, because if the ID exists, it should update. So let me write that update logic. What I'll do is private update nodes, and this will receive a payload, and the payload is I note, and it is not returning anything void. So now inside this update nodes, I'll pass a payload. Now this payload I'll be checking, and I'll be using this payload for updating our data. But if you see here, this payload is coming from the nodes form. This is absolutely fine, but we have one problem over here. Payload will have only 3 values, that is our 3 updated values. For that sake, what I'll do is I'll create this node service, and I want to update the nodes, but we don't have any update node. Let me go here and add one more thing. Let me copy the same thing. It would be similar like add, but I want to update it. Now I'm receiving a payload, and in this case I should not change, that means created by I should not change, and also I should not change the created it, but the updated it has to be changed, and that should be passed as a payload. Let me save this, and this payload will receive all the details of that particular form. But we should not use post, we should use put over here. Let me save this, and now let me call that update nodes, and the update nodes is a payload dot subscribe, and the subscribe will receive a response, and that response is I note response, and it will have a callback function, and inside the callback function, if I can write simple like this, and I don't want to clear this form. Nodes updated successfully, and please try again later. Save this, and also we have an error block. Let me copy the same error block and put it over here. Save this, same error block over here, and yep, we are done. And here we are checking the node details. Here also we need a error block. Save this. Now go here. Now we are in the same form. What I'll do is, once the updation is done, I have to call the get node details of the current user again. Why? Because I'm just updating it, but that should update in the UI as well, right? So for that sake, what I'll do is I'll call that this dot get node current details. That means I will be getting a new updated value. Let me go here and just make it as second time, or just make it as testing updated, and click on update nodes. You can see node title already exists. Okay, in this case we should not check the node title existence. So that is the problem over here. We should never check the node's title. Why? Because the node title can be same because we are updating it, right? So in that sake, what I can do is, instead of writing this if condition here, what I'll do is I'll use this dot note here itself inside the else, but I'll use this somewhere else. Let me remove this. Now what I'll do, I'll get the payload if this dot id exists, else check the conditions. So this part should go inside our else, and here I can do this dot update nodes of payload. I can pass the payload and save this. If the ID exists, go to the save, that means update nodes, and then go directly. But here also we no need to get the nodes as well. It is not required. For that sake, what I'll do is, instead of using add nodes directly, I'll write one more wrapper over here. That is nothing but add or update nodes. This is my method, and whenever I submit, this should be called, and this will be the decision maker. So what I'll do is, I'll write if this dot id exists, then go to the update, and let me remove this and this and also this one. Now we have to get this payload, so let me cut this payload and put it over here. Now else this dot add nodes, and I should pass the payload, which should be received this payload, and pass it. That's it. So we can give I note. Save this. Now what we are doing on submitting, we have to call this add or update nodes. Let me go into our HTML part. Here we are calling add nodes. Instead I'll make it as add or update. So this will take the decision, and now we can make it as private. So it will decide whether we have to update the nodes or we have to add the nodes, and based on that it will go the flow. The flow will continue and we will be getting the responses as expected. Let me go here. Now we have second time, and this will be something like updated description, and click on update nodes. So it got updated, but if you see, this time didn't got updated. Why? Let's see that. Let me inspect, and then let me go into our code. Let me go back first, nodes, and if you see here, the updated time is 7:03 and the created time is also same. Why? It should not be the case. So let me go into our update nodes, and once the updation is done, it has to call the API, it has to filter the data. Let me go and check our DB first. Cancel this and load the data again. If you see here, Friday 15th created it and updated it. So let me go here. Let's check that. Now go to the service, updated it, and here it is created it. Let me go into our nodes HTML and nodes detail HTML. Here we have updated it, and here we have created it. It's absolutely fine, and we are getting 404 error. That is nothing but not found. Okay, I got it. So here we are using node URL, but it should be node URL dot id. So that is where we are missing, and that's why it is giving problem. So let me go here and add a URL with slash node, that is nothing but slash dollar and the payload dot id. Save this. Now it will update. Let me go here, clear this off, and let me make it as updated for first time and update it. Now remove this debuggers, click this. Now it got updated successfully, and if you see, the time also got updated. That's it. So here there is one small performance problem. Actually speaking, once it is success, we don't need to call this. Okay. Instead, what I can do is, I can just assign this particular payload. This dot current details is equal to the response whatever we are getting. Save this and check, inspect, and go to the network, clear this off, and first time check. Just I'm adding check and clicking on update nodes. Let me remove this debuggers and hit this network, and if you see the network, you got all the response with the latest data. So it is having 7:03 and 7:41. Let me go and click on check all nodes. Now this is the delete and edit part, and now what I'll do is I'll add one more testing one, add nodes, successfully added. Go here. So you saw two. Let me click on edit. Let me change this to testing and update nodes. So updated nodes, updated successfully, and you updated within seconds. That's why you are not seeing the change in the time. Let me go here and you can see it was updated at 41 and created at 703, and it is 42 and it is updated at 42. So let's check the time. Now it is 7:42. If you want to check the seconds also, you can convert it into medium. So that's what. Let me go here, edit, checking time, and once it is 43, I'll submit it. So it is still 42. Let me go and update 43. Now the time taken here is 43 updated time. So let me click on cancel. So whenever you cancel this, all were refreshed and you can't update the notes. Let me click on check all notes. Yeah, absolutely fine. So that's how you can have delete and edit options. And once the edit option is done, once you come back to the list, you will see the updated data. So that's how we have completed all the CRUD operations related to this add notes. And in the upcoming video, we will see about login and logout problems. Actually speaking, now the user is in notes, and when I go and make it as login and hit enter, you can see he is able to navigate to login. Already he logged in, but he is able to go into login. So that should not be the case, and we can handle this by using auth guards. Let me click on back and he is able to go. For example, let me go and click on sign out and click on S. So he signed out. And if you see the storage, let me go into the storage part, and inside the storage it got cleared. That means everything is cleared. Let me click on dashboard. So he's able to go to dashboard. He is able to go to reset password. He is able to go to profile. So that is not, actually speaking, it is not a correct way of using. So that's why what we'll do is, if the user is not logged in, he will not be able to go inside the post login pages, or he cannot access anything inside the post login. If you like my video, like, share, subscribe to my channel for more updates. Signing off. Thank you.